You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Are you a diehard comic book collector?
Or maybe a lapsed fan?
Maybe even someone who has never picked up a comic book in their life. Hi, I'm Remso Martinez.
And I'm Mark Claire. Every single Wednesday at the Second Print Comics podcast, Remso and I take a deep dive into the storylines, character arcs, moments, and events that made us the fans we are today.
Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever else podcasts are available.
Check out more from the Second Print Comics podcast at secondprintcomics.com.
Prepare yourself. You're on the run with Remso W. Martinez.
So I have a policy that whenever I have to delay something or whenever I'm late for something, I have to publicly apologize to my guest. And sometimes I'll just give like a half-assed excuse, like I was saving orphans or like I was in the ER or something. So that way they're like, no. I'm sorry. But we delayed this by half an hour, which is 29 minutes far too late because I ordered Uber Eats, not DoorDash, because I fucking hate that app. I realized that as I was texting. I'm like, my DoorDash didn't arrive. It was Uber Eats. I get them confused because they're both terrible at the end of the day. But like 2 hours ago, I ordered dinner, and like here's been my week. I tore every tendon in my right ankle walking up the stairs after a jiu-jitsu session. And then, did you see the Black Widow movie?
Yes.
Okay, you know the after credits scene, spoilers, motherfuckers, where the one chick from Seinfeld is like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm allergic to the Midwest. I used to think that was like an elitist thing. I'm like, that bitch. But apparently Wisconsin has the highest airborne bull count in the country. So I
did not know that.
It is terrible here. So, like, people might hear this. I've got, like, a ball of phlegm that today has just decided to come undone. So, you know, I have not, like, my apartment looks like shit right now. It's been a rough week. So I'm hobbling and, you know, coughing and slurring. So people are like, oh, that ketamine addict is struggling. And I'm like, leave me alone. And I lost, like, 3 pounds in the last couple days. Like, it's been rough.
Damn.
So I was like, you know, I have nothing defrosted. I don't want to eat a meal. I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm going to order Mexican food. So I order Mexican food, and I'm like, I am excited for this shit. I don't do Uber Eats often. I'm not going to pay $30 for an $8 meal every night.
Right, yeah.
You know, I'm going to do it. And this thing got delayed like every 15 minutes. So like 2 hours later, I text Bill folks, and I message him, and I'm like, hey, like this is going to be a while, but you need to understand I'm fucking starving. So the dude goes to the wrong neighborhood because just my luck. And then I'm watching him on the little app map, and I'm like, no, the other way. I'm the next street over. So after being like an hour and a half late on top of all this, this guy pulls over. He's like, I'm sorry. It's my first day. I'm embarrassed. And he genuinely seemed upset. So I'm like, listen, man, I'm just happy my food's here. I still tipped him. I still gave him 5 stars. But like, Jesus Christ, like, I'm done with Uber Eats after this. That meal was not worth 2 hours and $30.
That sounds horrible. I've never used any of those apps yet. So I usually just go and get it myself. So
I feel really embarrassed too because the place is actually only 15 minutes away. I feel like everyone had more sympathy for me before I mentioned that one part.
Yeah, I think that kind of drops it a little bit.
But you know, I'm coughing and I'm limping, so cut me some slack, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I guess, you know, we'll give you the mold count thing. So
it's the mold count, it's stairs. Like nature does not want me to live.
It's just Wisconsin.
No, it's just Wisconsin. It's like I really like it here, but like little things like that annoy me. Like the roads here are like something out of Mogadishu, Somalia. So that's another thing that bothers me. But like I anticipate things that I would not have anticipated here because in a way I feel like Wisconsin is ahead of a lot of the country, having come from the East Coast, because people here aren't like crazy. It's almost like they figured out the things that work in life and they're like, let's just be really good at this. But there are also things that I'm like, I feel like the people here are also like living 30, 40 years ago. And then there are those moments where each time I think I'm like an East Coast elitist and like weird shit just doesn't happen to me anymore. And like I'm the weird guy in every room. I had something happen. I was at a gala last week for reasons, and because I look good in a suit and tie, so I'm like I'm gonna go find a gala to go to, like the DC elitist I am.
Sure.
Bill, what do you know about swingers?
I know that they have the best parties.
As one would say. I met this woman about 2 months after I moved here.
Okay.
We met for something work related. And here's the thing. I know I'm one of the sexiest men alive. No one has to tell me that. I just know it. Like, I just try and make it easier.
Even in Wisconsin?
In Wisconsin, I'm even better.
Okay.
But I have I'll be very honest. I've only been aggressively hit on by like several women in my entire life, and one of them is my fiance. But this woman, who is not unattractive, but she's not my type. She's in her mid-40s.
Okay.
And this chick really came on to me a few months ago. And I was just like I actually got kind of nervous. I'm like, this lady kind of freaks me out. So
you work with the chick?
We're in the same industry. So we're not 9-to-5ers together, but we run in the same circles. I don't know if that's a swinger code for anything, but it's 6 degrees of separation type of thing. But anyway, so I meet her at this thing, and after that happens, I'm like, if I was single, maybe I would be flattered. Even then, it's like this was kind of out there. She's at this gala I go to last week. And it happens again. And this time she walks towards me, but as she's walking towards me, I'm walking kind of backwards until she corners me against the corner of a room.
Oh, shit.
And it wasn't like, Harvey Weinstein, like, take your pants off. Like, she cornered me. But like, I was cornered and I obviously wanted to go. It took one of my colleagues who was also at the gala coming by and, got me out of the situation, and she walked away and stuff like that. And that was the last time I saw her. But I was like, what's this? If she does this to me, now don't get me wrong, I'm a catch a bub, but if she does this to me, she has to do this to other people.
Right.
And I go online and I immediately see that she is engaged.
Oh, shit.
And she lives with her fiance, and they have been together for over many years.
Okay. So they're looking for a third.
I think they are, because then I go ahead and I cyber stalk him, and I see him in a lot of photos with a lot of younger, attractive women. So I think I found the formula.
Wow.
They're looking for somebody half their age for each other. So she gets to go do weird shit, and he gets to go do weird shit. So I go ahead and text a friend of mine the next day. I'm like, hey, how do you know if somebody is a swinger? And she's like, because they'll put a pineapple statue or something pineapple related outside of their house. I'm like, what the hell? And she's like, yeah, I saw it on TV. Apparently people with pineapple decorations outside their house, that's a sign of swingers. And
damn.
I'm like, how do you know this? And she's like, because I watch TV. Don't ask me. And I'm like, okay. So if you're looking for swingers, I can almost guarantee there's potentially a secret swinger community out in southern Wisconsin.
And look for the pineapple.
But now you're not going to see pineapple decorations the same way again. Now you're going to see a woman in the summer, wearing a flowy dress with pineapple decorations on there, and you're going to be like, that woman is flagrant as fuck.
Well, even as you're saying that, I through my mind, I'm rapidly thinking about SpongeBob SquarePants and Psych, the TV show, which they always had a pineapple in the background. And I'm like, holy shit, is this secret code now? I can't look at Sam and Gus the same way.
You've heard of all the weird conspiracies to come out of SpongeBob. I think you may have either picked up one that's probably already out there, or you just created a new one. Yes.
Holy shit. SpongeBob's a swinger. Token swinger.
Honestly, I would respect him more if he was.
I would too, actually. It would take him up a couple notches.
At least. I heard a rumor. Well, I don't know how it could be a rumor about a TV show, but I heard a thing that he was like on the spectrum. And like each time I see these SpongeBob conspiracies and stuff like that, I'm like, this is a fucking kids show. Like, who are the people still thinking about this like 20 years later?
The same people that are thinking about Scooby-Doo and, token up in the van and all that shit. There's the groups out there.
I heard one that Fred and Shaggy were draft dodgers.
I can see that.
And that's why they were traveling across the country in the late 60s.
Yeah.
Because why else would you have... Yeah, because why else would you have... Like, that group does not match.
No.
They don't look like they would ever be friends otherwise.
Damn, that makes sense.
I mean, Shaggy totally deals drugs.
Oh, yeah. Scooby probably doesn't even really exist.
No, like, he's a dog, but, like, he died because they left him somewhere, and they still see him. You let me starve to death. Now that's shit.
That is some dark shit. And again, Fred, who else can make traps except for like a ex special forces? He ran away because he lost it.
You see, if they were gonna do a gritty reboot, they might as well do like a gritty reboot of Scooby-Doo.
I want to see it.
R-rated.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah. No, Quentin Tarantino needs to redo all the Hanna-Barbera shit.
The Flintstones would be something like Conan the Barbarian.
That would be awesome.
That would be
yeah.
fine.
Could you imagine Fred like killing Barney and taking Betty and Wilma?
I would do that.
I would too.
I would. Yeah.
As long as it's cartoon Betty and not Rosie O'Donnell. Betty.
Oh God, no. That we all acknowledge the existence of that shit.
I try not to.
No.
I try not to.
Bill, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about something that's been like on the top of my mind still, because since I'm here and now we're about to get like 20 feet of snow within the next couple of weeks, what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to put together a better playlist of movies to watch, because I'm going to be working from home a little bit more. I'm bored. I got shit to do. I want to watch some stuff because I don't really. I watch a lot of YouTube and I still go to the movies, but I don't watch a lot of like movies all the way through. I don't even watch TV shows like I used to. And I went to go see No Time to Die, and I think you reached out to me and we started talking about that Bond film, and it kind of propelled us into this broader discussion, which is the death of machismo in movies. And primarily, it's like the quintessential American action hero is basically dead. Now, James Bond, obviously not American.
Right.
But, like, he set the archetype for pretty much everybody. He set the archetype for Indiana Jones. I mean, you name an action star, and at some point, they are 6 degrees of Bond.
Absolutely, yeah.
No Time to Die. And if you haven't seen it by now, spoilers galore. But I want to be really mad at that film, but I also really like certain parts of it.
Yes.
So let's address the big awkward elephant in the room.
Okay.
They kill Bond.
First time ever.
Yeah. What are your first thoughts on that?
I was pissed. I was in shock. I was like, did they just kill James Bond? I'm like, holy shit. And I needed to wait till the end of the credits to see if it was going to pop up and say James Bond will return. Because I'm just like...
Like you see a hand coming out of some rubble?
I don't know, something. I was just surprised because, like I said, they faked his death before. And like we talked about, like, I consider Daniel Craig's Bond kind of like the Nolan verse, it kind of happens in its own little bubble. But even still, killing this, like, hyper masculine status symbol... and I think I said to you, I was like, there's never going to be another James Bond to that level. The suave, womanizing, Aston Martin driving, like male status, that every guy wants to attain, So yeah, it shocked the hell out of me, and that's why I reached out to you, because I was like, okay, I need to talk to somebody who's seen the movie who, is going to be able to like address this, and maybe has put some thought into it. And so it just blew my mind.
It's one of those things where it's like I've been reading a lot of commentary, and I think it's weird that a Bond film has gotten this much discussion, and I don't even think it's because he's dead. Like, a lot of people are talking about the death, but it's everything that led up to the death, which I think is more shocking, because so like the hero's journey, which is something I talk about often, Bond has kind of had that already, at least through this Daniel Craig arc. And I'll say that they've done it pretty damn well. However, what's really sad is I think this movie was kind of like the Unforgiven of James Bond films, because the Unforgiven of Clint Eastwood is about a guy who represents a bygone era of action cowboy western films, and now he's in this new world where he doesn't quite fit in. And where the only way this person who has lived a life of violence can be taken out is through more violence. So I kind of saw that in this film, and I kind of understood it. Other people, like, I don't know who goes to National Review for movie reviews, but I did for some god-awful reason. And the guy who wrote the review at National Review about No Time to Die, try saying that twice, he basically complained about all the women in the movie. Now, he complained about Lashana Lynch, who plays the new 007. He complained about Paloma, who plays the Cuban spy. He complained about Leah Seydoux, who plays Madeline. Like, he complains about the women. Now, don't get me wrong. Do the women represent something in the film? Yeah. They represent that, these are different women than like the Sean Connery or Roger Moore era of Bond.
Right.
I mean, I remember watching Tomorrow Never Dies of Pierce Brosnan, and like the Chinese spy who's the Bond girl in that film. Like, she wasn't even really a Bond girl. She was an action hero in her own right. And you started to see that a while ago. Like, Halle Berry kicked ass in Die Another Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, this idea that it hadn't been attempted prior, and in some ways was a little less insulting at the times because they weren't created just to be that. I found that to be kind of nearsighted. Now, I think Lashana Lynch was great in the movie. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, like her version, like, her character, I thought she was cool. I thought Paloma was cool. I didn't find it to be like this giant feminist claptrap that a lot of people thought it was going to be. I saw it as Bond has gotten to the end of the road, and for a person who's lived his life on the edge this long, you can't live an entire life like that and not have things catch up. Whether you're a good person or not, that's the repercussions of living a dangerous life like this. And if anything, I think people are missing a big, I wouldn't say conservative trope, but they're missing something truly heroic about Bond. Like, he would have always beaten the bad guy. He would have always saved the world. That's what James Bond does. But the motivation was different.
Right.
Because in this film, they expose that him and Madeline had a child. When he dies, he doesn't even seem upset.
Right.
Because he dies knowing that for the first time really ever, he put something good into the world. And that he has been able to produce something that will hopefully not live through this cycle of violence that he has lived through. So while the film is definitely, I would probably say a goodbye to that James Bond mystique of the, the fictional alpha, dude who has everything.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely do think there are many criticisms to be made about that. And we're seeing this in other action movies and stuff like that. Well, I was it definitely caught my attention. Like, it does not bother me to the degree at which I see it bothering other people.
Right. Yeah. And when you look at the whole Craig Bond, every woman in each of his movies, I mean, not every, but there's always one that stood out that was, his match, that was an alpha female, so to speak, whether it was Vespa or M, in Skyfall, Madeline and Spectre. I mean, there was always that match, and I appreciate that. I mean, I love movies with strong female characters, and that they can play well with a strong male character, because that's how it should be. I think for me it was, and I agree with what you're saying. You know, he sacrificed himself for, you know, love of his life, his daughter, and that was, for him, that was, you know, that was worth it. That's bigger than Queen and Country, where he had been his entire career. And seeing Bond from the beginning, where he had this ego, you know, that, you know, you always see in Casino Royale, them telling him to take his ego out of the equation. And at the end of,
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
At the end, that makes so much sense now.
It's like he had evolved so much to the point where, you know, he was okay, you know, even losing, if that was a loss, you know, to keep those that he loved safe. So
I can't think of a manlier virtue than that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I think my biggest problem with the film is that some of the classic Bond tropes that you would want, it's not that they don't deliver it, it's that they are about to deliver it and they don't give it to you. The first one, when Bond takes the new 007 back to his pad in Jamaica, and immediately he figures out he's not getting some. I'm like, man, if I brought her back and that wasn't going down, I would be pissed too. So like that's one of those moments where it's like, okay, that's trope number one. It's like, oh, she's not going to give it to Bond. He can't get every woman. I think this is the first time Bond has ever actually hit on a woman and not gotten in bed with her. So like, you know, like if it can't happen to Bond, like that fucking sucks.
Right.
But then it's like, you know, what's crazy about this? It's like the Mission Impossible movies. It's like there's never a film where Ethan Hunter is like, or whatever Tom Cruise's name is. There's never a film where he's actually like not a rogue agent.
Right. Yeah.
Like he works for the worst place ever. In every film, he's always rogue. He's always fighting against everybody. It's always like that.
He's always set up.
And it's kind of like that for Bond in a way through this Craig series, because he goes super rogue in Quantum of Solace. He you know, everyone thinks he's dead and he disappears for a few months in Skyfall. Then in Spectre, you know, the Spectre agent is in charge of the new MI6. And then in this film, like, you know, he's irrelevant really, and he's only brought in because they can't avoid not having him help them. But like, then there's a part where it's like after Madeline White.
You went full X-Men.
I went full nerd when Madeline, at the beginning of the film, when they think that she's a Spectre agent, that she betrayed Bond, they let her back into government. Yeah, and what they do is they give her access to the dude who's in charge of Spectre. Right. So Bond has to go through all this shit. Like nobody wants him here there, but they've let in somebody who was probably like a suspected terrorist like a few months ago. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's like Bond always has to work for it, but she just walked in and, you know, she's probably collecting a salary too.
Oh, you know, she was getting paid well. Yeah. And if she said she wanted him gone, he would have been gone. So
immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's things like that, you know, with the Paloma scene. Like I thought she was awesome, but it's like there's another scene where it's like, you know, even though she's not James Bond and even though she's new, like I don't think it was like, you know, a Rey from Star Wars situation where she just happens to be an amazing fighter. I think it was supposed to be funny and playful. Like obviously like, this isn't her third week of training. Yeah. But it's like another moment where it's like she's really the one that gets them out of that situation. She's really the one that does a brunt of the fighting. Yeah. And then, you know, he doesn't get with her at all. You're right. Yeah, he tries and she's like just is like, no, I'm good. Yeah, it's another situation where it's like, you know, Bond is too old, Bond is too wrecked, Bond is irrelevant, Bond has to work harder for what people get with less trust. It's one of those situations where it's just like, this is Bond in his most unlucky moment. And then what's worse is that they kill his best friend. They kill Felix. Right. Yeah. And it's like, you've made this guy's life fucking miserable. And now he doesn't even have any game. and now you're gonna do that to him. You're gonna kill his friend. And then I think the biggest insult, and people were like, "Oh, well, it's not as bad as you think it is when Madeline tries to tell Bond, and she does a shitty lie when she's like, "Oh, she's not your daughter," and he's like, "Look at her eyes. She's my fucking kid." It's to even insinuate, "Oh yeah, like a few days after we broke up, I fucked some other guy and got pregnant with his kid, and I was literally about to marry you, and we never had kids." It's like, some people see it. It's like, well, she's an empowered woman. She could be as promiscuous as Bond. It's like, no, that's not the same.
Yeah. Like, well, and after she said that, I started thinking, I was like, oh damn, did she get with Blofeld? Because
that's fucked up.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was like, shit.
You're about to fuck your evil terrorist stepbrother.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, and then someone pointed out that throughout the whole movie, he never actually said Bond, James Bond. He started to when he was going through checking in at MI6, and they're like, yeah, we've never heard of you. It wasn't until at the end of the movie that Madeline's telling the story about a man named Bond, James Bond, that, the line is even uttered. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from that angle, what they basically do is they've just whittled away everything that makes him him.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what pisses me off.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, they tease it, but it's like not there, so yeah. Like I said, there's parts of the movie that were really good. And then there's parts that you're just like, at least give them the quintessential, lines, the quintessential moments if you're going to do this. So, yeah. But, and then, as I was talking to you, it's just seems to cap, just these killing off of these masculine figures through, pop culture now, and it seems like.
Who would you say is another example recently?
I would say Wolverine is a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, they killed him off, what was it, in 2015, I think?
Yeah.
And Logan, but also in the comic book, they killed him off. And he didn't come back
around the same time.
Yeah. And he didn't come back until, I think it was just 2 years ago.
2018, 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he's not the same though. I've always been a big Wolverine fan, but he's not, he doesn't drink the beers like he used to. He doesn't smoke the cigars, like I've seen on the message boards, he's a third wheel to Jean and Cyclops and
the ex-cuckling.
Yes. The ex-cuckling. I mean, that's like, come on, they killed off Snake Eyes in the G.I. Joe comics.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
No fucking way. I just finished Snake Eyes Dead Game. They kill Snake Eyes?
Yeah. They killed him off, and he's got a female replacement.
No.
So, yeah.
Okay. This brings up another thing. Did you see the Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins movie?
Yes, I did. Only because Snake Eyes is one of my favorites. I had to see. I knew it was going to be bad, but I had to see what they're going to do.
Okay, so and I'm saying this is a freaking Snake Eyes diehard. People can't say I'm jumping on a hate bandwagon afterwards. I have a signed Rob Liefeld variant cover of Snake Eyes issue 2 framed, sitting directly in front of me on my shelf. And then I even pre-ordered Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins on Blu-ray, and it got to my house the other day. And I watched it again for the first time since I saw it in July, and it's fucking disappointing.
Yeah.
But let's take this for example. For people that haven't seen it, who thinks that it ties into the other G.I. Joe films, just throw all that shit out. They're just like, fuck it, we're gonna do something else. And I was okay with that premise, but dude, I don't know if you would put it like I'm about to put it, but Snake Eyes is not the hero of that movie.
No, hell no. Oh no. Yeah. No, not at all.
And it's one of those things.
Not even the most interesting guy in the movie.
Snake Eyes isn't even Snake Eyes. Like in these origin films, you're supposed to see growth, but even when he gets the costume, which from a payoff point is only in the movie for like 20 seconds at the very end. It's like he's still not Snake Eyes even then. Don't get me wrong, it's a cliffhanger. Right. They want to make a sequel.
Right.
It's like here you have one of like every small boy who had G.I. Joes, everyone fucking wanted the ninja.
Oh yeah.
Everyone wanted Snake Eyes. And what they basically do, and this is, I call it like failing at the anti-hero trope. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's perfect. They can have their edge. They can make mistakes. It can be part of a hero's journey. That film's just freaking disappointing because they make him, they make him the anti-Snake Eyes. You never see him in a mask, and the fucker talks the entire time.
Right,
and he sucks at being a ninja.
Yeah.
One minute he can't jump over a log. The next minute he's doing like Spider-Man flips over cars on a Japanese freeway.
Yeah.
So that makes no sense. But they intentionally make him as unlikable as possible. And then at the point where you're like, okay, maybe it's some redeeming values, it's not even because he wants to be heroic. It's just because he feels guilty.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, my son, who's 6, he's really gotten into G.I. Joe recently. So we've been watching the original cartoon on Tubi. I got a lot of the original action figures I've been letting him play with and stuff. And so he's been asking questions, and I have every Snake Eyes figure that's ever been made. And so, we were talking about Snake Eyes and stuff. And so I showed him some of my comics and stuff. And so he can see. And it really disappoints me that they're taking G.I. Joe, like the army aspect out of G.I. Joe and focusing on this whole like sci-fi mystic fantasy section of it. It just, I don't know, it just kills it for me.
It's like, remember how, especially in like the late 90s, early 2000s, you could not be an action hero unless part of your background was being in the military.
Oh yeah. Right.
I saw that they tried to remove that. And you had some people like, American Assassin, the Vince Flynn books that got turned into a movie. Mm-hmm. I remember watching that in theaters in like 2017. And I'm watching this movie primarily because it has Michael Keaton in it. And I'm like, this is, as an action movie, it's objectively a good action film. I think American Assassin is really good. However, it's a film that when it came out in 2017, no one was going to go see it.
Right.
Because here you have something which is very pro-America, which is very quintessential action film and follows all the action film tropes. Mm-hmm. And, you can't do it anymore, because I think it was after, like, it was after and during it was during and after the invasion of Iraq. You had Hollywood saying, oh, well, these things are just recruitment tools. These things justify foreign action. Don't get me wrong. Well, maybe there were some propaganda aspects to it. Like, there definitely were. No one can deny that.
Sure. Yeah.
It suddenly, we jump to the radical end of things where it's like you have to totally remove it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and this isn't my criticism of like the Marvel heroes, but like only Captain America was a soldier. Right. Like Hawkeye in some of the comics was a soldier.
Right.
They don't talk about that in the movies. And there were others who were soldiers. Now, War Machine is probably the only other one, but True. I mean, you can't not make him War Machine. That's why when they made him Iron Patriot in Iron Man 3, I was like, well, that's fucking stupid.
Right. Yeah.
But they've done this whole thing where they're trying to redraw what makes masculinity. And I'm sorry, like I can't look at Paul Rudd and think action hero.
Right.
Mark Ruffalo and think action hero. Don't get me wrong, they're playing superheroes and giants and shit like that. I excuse that they're good actors at their role. But there's no more Stallones.
Right.
Primarily because Stallone refuses to fucking retire. And like all those guys, like when was the last time you saw like Jean-Claude Van Damme do a movie?
Oh yeah, right. Last one he did, I think, was a mockumentary on his own life.
Something like that.
Where he's like making fun of himself.
Yeah, and even then, it's like those guys had to do something. Like all those like fighter films, like they were actually fighters who then got into Hollywood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they had some kind of skill. Like you said, the only person who's or movies that are even close would be like a John Wick film.
Which even I'm kind of worried about. Did you hear about the spinoff for that?
No.
So it ties everything together. It's going to be a spinoff movie called The Ballerina.
Okay.
And it has the chick who played Paloma from No Time to Die.
Okay.
Do I think that that's going to be a film that's going to replace John Wick? No. It's a spinoff. Yeah. I'm cool with it. I'll go watch it. It'll probably be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like even now, it's like I'm so skeptical because of what they've tried to do in Hollywood that I see this and I'm like, what's the intention?
Right. Yeah. 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 Everything that comes out, I question like, okay, what's the intention on it Hollywood wise? Like even the Marvel movies that are coming out now after the Endgame, Eternals, Black Widow, what was the one that came in between those two? That
Shang-Chi was.
I like Shang-Chi.
I like Shang-Chi. Like Shang-Chi tried. My problem with Shang-Chi was there wasn't enough fighting.
Yeah, right.
Don't get me wrong. I was not expecting a Disney movie to be a full-on action flick.
Yeah,
but it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of the three that have been coming out, what is Eternals out yet, or is that next weekend?
Comes out next week,
and it's getting bombed currently, I think.
Everyone is attacking it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to hack up a lung. Like conservatives are attacking it because it's got gay people or something.
Okay.
The left is attacking it because they're saying that some people are too stereotyped in the film, which I mean, you got to give it to them. Like the director is a very liberal person, but like it's an extremely diverse cast. So if she can't please them, then they were never going to be pleased.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe they're just looking to come out against Marvel. I mean, on something, I don't know. And this is the one that they feel like they can do because the characters aren't as recognizable. But I don't know. And don't get me wrong.
I'm going to go see it.
Oh, I am too. Yeah. I just, after like Shang-Chi, I wasn't sure about. I was like, Black Widow. I didn't like Black Widow.
You didn't like it?
I didn't. It just seemed very generic.
This is gonna sound funny. I think that No Time to Die was a better superhero film than Black Widow, and Black Widow was a better spy movie than No Time to Die.
Okay.
Even in the way they were marketing it, because when was the only time we saw Rami Malek in the trailers? When he's wearing that like supervillain mask.
Right, that's true, yeah.
And the entire time they're marketing Black Widow, they're like, this is the female Jason Bourne.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I saw it on Disney Plus and not at the movie theater. Maybe that was the difference maker for me. So
yeah, sometimes that has a difference.
You don't get the big spectacle of it, So, but I don't know. Yeah, I liked the end scene. I was excited, like, with the after credits, with their sister and Elaine from Seinfeld there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm curious to see what they do with this. But I don't know. But I'm not one that's like, I like superhero characters. Like a lot of people, as I was like kind of reading about like masculinity in comics and stuff like that, they kind of slammed that period in Marvel where they're like doing legacy characters. And I really liked the Jane Foster, like Thor storyline. I thought that was a great storyline.
They pulled that off. They succeeded with Jane Foster, but they failed with Sam Wilson. That's why I was really hoping that for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, they would ignore more of the comics.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I was okay if some of the themes in the comics, because I'm like, as long as they're respecting the source material, like I could respect that. But then they went even farther to the left than the comics went.
Right.
And the comics went pretty damn left, but I'm like, if it's authentic to the character there, that makes sense. Story-wise in the TV show, they fucking failed at that because they're just cramming shit in. It's like this is coming out of nowhere. There's no context. There's no reason.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I got excited when they were bringing Isaiah Bradley, and I'm like, wow, this is they're hitting all the marks.
They fucked that up too.
Yeah, they did.
Isaiah Bradley was not a fucking racist.
No.
But they make him to a fucking racist in the show.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like you said, they just totally destroyed that. So
I mean, you want to talk about masculine figures, and this is probably gonna be the most controversial thing I think I've come out and said, but I do believe it, and I stand by it. But have you seen this new? And it's not even new. It's this movement amongst very very progressive people to tie blackness to gayness.
I haven't seen that.
Like, it's not Black Lives Matter, it's Black Trans Lives Matter.
Yeah, okay. Yep. I have seen that. Yeah.
I remember like during the gay marriage debate like a decade ago, there were gay activists trying to say, well, being gay is like being black.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to make a call on that. I'm not saying that it's a choice. I'm not saying you're born with it. I'm not saying it is a choice or whatever. I don't know. But I don't think comparing it to people that were in like chattel slavery and lived under Jim Crow is exactly the same. Like, you can't, because then that's drawing like a very unequal comparison.
Yeah.
But then as you look at it, it's like, you've got this whole thing where it's like the future is queer, and it's like you can't have a queer future unless you're like growing people in test tubes who are gonna be queer when they grow up.
Right. Yeah.
I think when it comes to the left, I think that they've understood that they have lost the support of the black male voter demographic. And, the black community, which is usually traditionally culturally conservative, masculinity is something that a lot of black men are taught to emphasize more than I think other cultures. I think, Hispanic, Latinos come before that. I think white people have kind of given up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think what we're seeing here is this attempt to basically feminize the black male. Because if you see him as a threat, you couldn't take away his body anymore. You lost that. You couldn't take away his rights anymore. You lost that. You couldn't take away the culture from them anymore because now they have the internet, they have technology, they have a voice. Now what you have to do is you have to take away their masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
You have to shame them. You have to do all this other stuff.
Yeah. No,
And I mean, that's like with all these characters, and it's like, this is not an anti-gay thing.
No.
But it's like, I tell people this. I knew gay guys in the military who were great soldiers, who were good guys, but they were not feminine.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like somehow to be gay, you had to be feminine. And that was one of those things where it's like when I met them and they came out, it was like, well, that it's your thing. Okay. But what the weird thing to me was like, wouldn't I be able to tell who they are? Don't they act a certain way or something? And it's not even the sexual orientation. It's the direct feminization.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think I sent you a link to a book. It was a James Bond novel called Carte Blanche. It was written by an American mystery writer, Jeffrey Deaver, which I think was the first mistake. Don't let an American write James Bond.
No joke.
But in Carte Blanche, which came out when I was in high school in like 2012, 2013, they made Bond into kind of a woke dude.
Really?
It was bad because he never he was afraid to hit on women. He falls in love with the woman who ends up being the villain of the book, but he like is begging her not to do shit. So we see a begging Bond.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't he's Bond in name. Sorry.
It's all right.
It's the culture. It's attacking me. It's Bond in name only.
Yeah. Right.
So like I had been seeing this for a while, but it's like now it's at the point where it's like we're transitioning them out.
Oh, right.
And that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you look at the push on these, it seems like every new male character, introduced in comics, whether it's John Kent or Ghostmaker from the Batman comics, they have that byline, which I think is the laziest writing tool there is, because you can do anything with the bi.
Wait, did they make Ghostmaker bi?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
You gotta fuck Robin now? Because Robin's gay now?
Yeah, that's my thought. So I think everybody's shipping Robin and John Kent though.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's just lazy. It's like if you want to get bold, make them trans.
Oh, that'll come out soon. Oh, well, they tried making an Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's the new thing,
You
right?
can be a man in the Amazon kingdom now, thanks to Wonder Woman.
That's beautiful. Yeah, but traditional masculinity is frowned on, and I want to see a character like that's like Sylvester Stallone, like Rambo, who's like big, loves football, drinks a lot, but gay. That would be awesome.
That would be cool. I'd watch that movie twice just to support the box office numbers.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. And I just read an article about Punisher and how they felt like Punisher was like the very definition of toxic masculinity. And they're trying to, just make a push that, there's no more Punisher comics because they feel like he's the symbol of toxic masculinity. And and I've noticed that it seems like the line for toxic masculinity shifts. It used to be Harvey Weinstein, and now it's like just, saying you're a man or whatever, and masculinity isn't about violence. It's like we talked about James Bond, there's nothing more masculine than sacrificing yourself for the ones you love, but that I think that gets discouraged to even talk about.
What has helped me kind of refocus on some things has been since I moved here, because I've been by myself a lot. And when you're alone a lot of the time, you think about a lot of shit and you kind of disconnect from other people. And what I have really appreciated was starting jiu-jitsu because, it's outside of anything work related. Every time I go to class or I go to an open mat night, I am with people who live remarkably different lives, who have in remarkably different backgrounds than I do. And I love it. But, and I'm not going to take a guess like, oh, I think that person's liberal. Oh, I think that person might be gay. I don't think about that stuff. There's some of those masculine dudes regardless of that. And if I learned more things about them that might shock me in terms of what I would expect from them, it would not change my view of them. Because what they are is they're people who are willing to be capable of extreme violence in order to maintain peace. They are willing to hurt somebody and have somebody hurt themselves to know the extent of which they can go. And then you're hoping that person will stop when you tap them.
Yeah.
And it's an environment where, like, courage, even if you lose a match, if you go all the way, you're respected as much as if you won. Like, that's almost respected more so, how you handle losing. Okay. Yeah. So it's like those virtues of being and there are women who do it too. So I don't want to I don't just want to say that, but it's like that is most tightly tied to manliness in a way, because that's how all our stories went. That's who all our heroes are. And as you remove those from the culture and as you change the culture to look in a different way, no one should be surprised that men change their behaviors and their outlook on themselves and others as a result of it.
No, I agree. I just
how old is your son, if you don't mind me asking?
He's 6.
Would you let him in the Boy Scouts or anything like that these days?
I mean, if you wanted to be honest, I never looked highly on the Boy Scouts. I always thought it was kind of boring. I went in when I was 10 and all we did was sing songs, do derby cars, and try to sell popcorn, so it wasn't at all what I thought it would be. If he wanted to try it, I would let him try it. I've been trying to push him to go into jiu-jitsu, to be honest.
Dude, don't even give him a choice. Just drag him there. If he doesn't like it after a few months, if he really doesn't like it, don't make him do it. But I bet dollars to donuts he will try it and he will fucking love it.
That was my thought. Yeah.
The kids, and I've seen this because the kids class starts right before the adults class. So I'll watch the kids, and honestly, like, I watch them in not creepy fucking way, but those kids are doing shit that I'm not capable of doing.
Yeah. Right.
And it's because they've got youth and time on their side.
Right.
And if those kids keep doing it up until their teens, they will be like world-class assassins. No,
And
like,
that's
I'm
what
dead
I'm going
serious.
for.
It scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's, that's what he needs confidence. His cousin bullies him, and I just, I want him to be able to stand up and do something on his own. And I figure, jujitsu is the best way for him to do that. So
I 100% support. I did martial arts as a kid because I got bullied.
did you?
I did Taekwondo. My mom signed me up when I was 5 or 6 because a kid punched me in the sandbox and threw sand in my eyes. And that sounds like a joke, but it actually
No.
like, scratched the cornea. So I was like a 5-year-old with like an eye patch.
Oh,
And
damn.
I went to it was only like a week or so, but like, I went to a private Christian school. So like, I didn't fight back. I just let the kid kind of just beat the shit out of me. But like,
Mhm.
my mom was, the school was weird about it because like they wanted to discipline him, but they were also like, okay, this is where we forgive. And my mom is like, I don't want forgiveness. I want my kid
Yeah.
to fight
Right.
back.
Yeah.
And, my mom, I remember she stormed out of the principal's office. She's like, I'm signing my kid up for some type of self-defense class. And if this kid does it again, my kid has permission to beat him.
Mhm.
So I did Taekwondo for probably 5 years.
Okay.
I did it for a few years after that. Then I moved and didn't do it for a while. And then when I was a teenager, so I lived in Australia for 2 years.
Oh,
And then
cool.
when I moved back to the United States, I got really bullied again. Like I was getting beat up in middle school. Like it was bad.
Mhm.
And my mom signed me up for Taekwondo again. So I restarted that. And it just gave me it gave me a lot of confidence. Now at that point, no one was fighting me, but it wasn't because
Right.
they were like, "Oh, he's taking Taekwondo." If anything, they made fun
Right.
of it. But I had different swagger. I had more confidence. I realized that if anyone
Yeah.
tried to start anything again, like even if they're bigger and faster than me and more violent than me,
Mhm.
they're gonna walk out of it in a worse case than they walked into it.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
so like I did that, and it's like in the military, I was trained to kill. So
Mhm.
why I wanted to do it again was primarily, like I want to be healthier, I want to make some friends, but there's a confidence to knowing that if shit goes down, you can defend yourself that nothing else
Absolutely.
short of even possessing a firearm can give you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It makes a difference. So, yeah. And that kind of confidence, I mean, I don't see any other way for a kid to get it, if they don't have it already. So,
Like how does your kid roughhouse with you?
a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Him and his sister will kind of, play around with it. Like last night they were sword fighting, and try and take each other out. But, we'll wrestle around a little bit, but not a whole lot, but he's one of the, he'll see kids at the church that we go to, they'll wrestle around and he'll be like, man, those kids they're bad. Why are they doing that? And so, but
I think there's a thing, and I see this with a lot of kids that do so jujitsu as a whole, like depending on what school you go to, they call it different things. But I think at our school, and it's like all the Gracie Academy schools, it's like their anti-bully program.
mhm.
Like all the kids there have one thing in common. If I was a young kid and I was in class with them, I would point to them being the kids who were getting bullied.
Mhm.
And these are not kids who were violent. These are not
Yeah.
kids that, have any like mean bone in their body, but they
Yeah.
will choke you the fuck out. They will triangle you or like flying knee kick you like Jorge Masvidal. And it is horrifying to watch. It's cool, but it's
Yeah.
fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's true.
I mean,
And
I think every kid should do martial arts, whether they like it or not. A
Yeah.
couple of years, they will benefit it long term.
No, I agree. Absolutely. I think it makes a difference. And my kids, I mean, neither of them are aggressive. Like my son played soccer last season. Fast kid on the field, but he wouldn't outrun other kids because he felt bad. He didn't want other kids to feel bad. And he wouldn't take the ball from them because he felt bad taking the ball from them. And so he just would run alongside him. And so
That's always been I've always held back because I was always a bigger kid. I was always taller than kids. I was always like, whether I was fatter or not or whatever, like I was always the bigger person. So it's like I know I I can hurt somebody by accident. And that's sometimes why I lose matches when I'm rolling with people at jiu-jitsu, because like I'll be on top of them. And this is one of the few opportunities where it's like being the bigger guy can't help you, even though a lot of smaller guys can submit me and make me tap out. But, you know, like I will lean in using my body weight if I'm on top of somebody. And the moment I see them wince or I hear like a choke or something, like I will freak out because I don't want to hurt these people. They're my friends. They're my sparring partners. And then what they'll do is they'll beat the shit out of me. And then I'm like, I should have snapped your arm. But, you know, like that is something like even as an adult, like I have to work past because I also have to trust that the other person knows their own limits.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that they'll tap out if they need to.
Yeah. It's a weird trust building I've had to do. Like I have, there are probably 50 or so adults I've recognized go between the classes and kind of cycle through, but I only roll with about 4 or 5 of them. And what I've noticed watching them is that everyone usually has like a small handful of people who they feel really comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the guys I roll with, he's 50, but he's a former Army NCO, and he's in phenomenal shape. And I remember he would just be like, you know, watch out, I'm old. And then he would go 100%. Or some nights he's like, okay, go 100%. And he's like, why'd you do that to me? But like on Monday when I went to class, like we had like a little death match, but it was because we had been on the mats so much together. We knew we could take it pretty far. So at one point, we're in like dual leg locks and we're trying to choke each other out using a cross collar grip. And at one point, we're just staring at each other. And when I loosen his grip, he moves his chin, loosens mine. I'm like, "How's your day?" And he's like, "It's okay." I mean, it's just stuff like that. Like, you know, violence is often tied to it. But I'm like, the most peaceful people I've ever met in my life were men who were capable of extreme violence. They made the conscious decision just not to be.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, those are usually the best people. You know, it's the people that, you know, they have that they feel weak, you know, inside. They're the ones that usually perpetrate the greatest violence to be against others. So, being able to defend yourself, knowing that you can take care of yourself and your others and the ones you love, you know, it gives a huge peace. It does. So I used to do physical security. And so we would train with the sheriff's department. And so we would do jujitsu and Krav Maga. And the trainer was, you know, he was probably in his 50s, but he was kicking everybody's ass. I mean, it was unbelievable. So
that's why it surprises me when people look at martial arts and they're like, "Oh, why would you want to do that?" It's why I defend like the UFC, for example.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, that's just like human cockfighting, but it's like, no, like that's skill on a different level.
Absolutely.
And, like, you can't fake it like that in baseball because there's no ties in baseball, and it doesn't matter if you go past 9 innings. You're gonna play till you have a winner. Like it's one of the few things where it's like you can't. If you dope, people will find out. If you're overweight, people will find out. If your cardio isn't up, people will find out. If you haven't been hitting a gym, people will find out. Like every part of you is exposed. It's like combat sports are the most honest sports. And that's why I find like those athletes remarkably different than athletes in other sports who have really bad ego problems. Like forget Conor McGregor exists. Like, like, you know, I've heard more wisdom come out of Floyd Mayweather than any basketball player who ever lived.
Oh, absolutely.
People are like, oh, Kobe was like the philosopher basketball player. I'm like, Kobe's fucking nothing compared to half these people. Go talk to Manny Pacquiao. That man's about to become president of the Philippines.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're different.
Yeah, it is. It's a different breed for sure. You know, when you trade blood with somebody, you know, it's like, I don't know, you just, you have to be different. You know, you have to, like you said, if you're an extremely dangerous person, the amount of restraint and willpower it takes to know that I'm not going to hurt somebody that I can hurt, no matter how much they're busting my chops or giving me shit. I mean, that's takes a lot of a person.
Yeah. There was a dude I competed against It was for like a Texas State Championship when I was doing Taekwondo the second time around. We were both I think we were like green or blue belts. We were like mid-level in our experience, and we were about 13, 14 years old. Jason Hendricks, I'll never remember him because the first time we competed against each other, he beat the shit out of me. I didn't even place. Oh, I got like a legit like participation trophy. I got like a fourth place prize because I competed against like 60 people in the first tournament. So I got like the best competitor, which was like a participation trophy, but no one beneath me got the best competitor. And then the next time, and Hendricks got first place everything. Mm-hmm. And then the following season, we went to another tournament, and I competed against probably 30 or so people, but he was still in my group. So I got second place in sparring, weapons, and forms. Yeah, during like our last sparring match, we both went against 5 people to get to each other, and he gave me my first concussion.
Oh, damn.
And we were wearing the pads and everything, the safe Kwando gear.
Yeah.
Like, he gave me a fucking concussion. Like, I was laid out. Like, I was able to get my gear off, and then when we were lining up to see who got what, I got second place in everything. He got first place in everything. And I actually just, like, took a knee, and I was backwards. And I remember them putting my medals on top of me while a paramedic was coming by. And I remember this dude, he actually went from his spot in the line to come over to me to wave his mom down to go get me a bottle of water because he felt so fucking terrible. And he's like patting me on the shoulder. He's like, "It's okay, bud. It's gonna be all right." I'm just looking at him like, am I gonna die? I had never had a concussion before. I didn't know it was fucking happening. He became my fucking best friend after that.
Did he?
We haven't spoken in like 15 years. Huh. But it was one of those things where it's like it was never personal. And, he said this afterwards. Yeah. He's like, I was the person who went from being the participation level trophy to giving him a run for his money. And like, it was like, it was a weird camaraderie.
Yeah. That's awesome though.
And it's those aspects of masculinity that, while the culture might be going in one direction, I think people have to go out of their way to find it in other areas, because I think if you go actively pursuing like better role models, those characters that even seem larger than life in their own life, we begin to see less that we need other heroes and more that we become our own.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had a similar. There was a bully in my middle school. His name was Andre Rodriguez, and he
sounds like a dick.
he had a really bad reputation. Some kid said he like tried to kill his dad with a chainsaw or something.
Fuck?
And yeah. So I'm sitting, it's 8th grade, and it's like right before Christmas break. And the math teacher's like, "Hey, do you guys want to listen to music? It's right before break." And I was like, "Yeah, how about some Christmas music?" He's like, "No, we don't want to listen to Christmas music. We want to listen to some hip hop." Of course, this was like, 1990, so there wasn't real hip hop. And I was like, "No, Christmas music." And he's like, "Listen, motherfucker." He's like, "I'm going to kick your ass this weekend." Well, the girl I had a crush on was sitting right behind me, and I wasn't going to back down. I was like, "Fine, let's do it." And so then he's like, no. He's like, after school. And I'm like, I look back, she's still watching. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And then he's like, "No, forget that." He's like, "Lunchtime, your ass is mine." And I look back, she's still paying attention. I'm like, "Fuck. All right, let's do it." And he's like, "All right, no, you know what? After class." I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "You know what? You're not even worth my time." And so then he like didn't, nothing. And then he just, I don't know, he started talking to me. We became good friends, and, we started hanging out. And then like, I moved away and moved back to Kansas City 5 years later, ran into him. I was like, "Hey, Andre, how's it going, man?" He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Man, I just got out of jail, for dealing." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But yeah, it was crazy.
Man, courage is a universal language.
Yeah.
Real respect's real, even if you don't really mean it.
Right, exactly. At least pretend.
Dude, we've got well past time, and I'm about to go lay in my shower and just die. If people want to check out Break the Bell and all the awesome shit that you do, how could they do so?
Yeah, check us out, Break the Bell Pod. at it's on YouTube, Facebook. Craig's got us up on Twitter going, so check us out. We hit current events, a little bit of politics, whatever's going on. So it's good shit.
I tell people this all the time. I watch every live stream. I download the show. You guys rock, and I love seeing it every time. All right, brother. Take care.
Hey, thanks. You too.